Hey my friends, Sam Haymart with Test Driven TV. Today we're test driving the 2023 Hyundai Tucson Hybrid, and this is a fully loaded Limited. So we're going to have a good look at it inside and out. We're going to take it for a drive, and then I'm going to tell you what I really think. So what we have here is a fully loaded Hyundai Tucson Hybrid, the Limited trim grade. That comes standard with all-wheel drive. As tested, we are at $40,000 and some change. And this is really about the most you can spend without going with a lot of accessories from your dealership. So looking at the vehicle, styling is really the biggest news story here in my opinion. Hyundai's design language is something that I've really appreciated of late, and they mix it up quite a bit. On this one, as you go down the side and look at the three-dimensional forms, this has a lot of origami-like folding in the sheet metal creases and the way the different planes come together. It's something you don't see every day. It's just, they didn't go for the just make it business-like and don't make it stand out too much like a lot of the brands do. They don't want to make it too crazy. Hyundai, they're crazy. They're not afraid to really sort of be the art in the parking lot, and being sort of an artist myself, I appreciate that. I like that. And looking at the front, this is where things really get crazy if they are. Black chrome grille, LED signature lighting actually lights up from behind that chrome. And so they're sort of hidden right now, but when they light up, it has a completely different look. Very Tron, very Transformers-like. Comes right out of a movie, superhero, I like that. Now the headlights, it might look like the headlights are actually here, but the reality is the headlights are down there, the big round units. What's here is part of the signature lighting, the daytime running lights. Coming around the corner, 19-inch wheels, alloys of course, some good sized rubber on this. And as we come down the side, black plastic cladding as we'd expect on an SUV up on top. Black roof rails are standard, so you can put your accessories up there, and this one does have a full panoramic roof. At the back, spoiler built in. Now look at the way the chrome on that rear three-quarter view just sort of is artistically put into that rear hatch. It's like sort of a pair of sunglasses coming down over your ears. And you can really see how this origami-like styling wraps around the corner into some nicely sculpted three-dimensional LED tail lamps. Looking down into the lower bumper, they didn't overdo it, right? They've gone crazy and gone really punchy on some of the other design, but down on the lower bumper, this is a hybrid. No need for big garish dual exhaust tips. We just tested the Honda CR-V hybrid last week, and it had nice symmetrical dual exhaust tips on it, but one of them was fake, right? So they were just styling elements for the sake of being styling elements. Everything here is real. It's content. I love that. And lastly, this of course is a power opening hatch as you'd expect. Hit a button, it's hands-free also, and of course you can use the key fob. The interior of the Tucson is just like the outside, very design centric. When you look around, this particular one, it's got a two-tone treatment with a dual cowl dash design, which means it's symmetrical, and then it has sort of a waterfall center stack that comes down and dives into a nicely well laid out center console. The material quality is generally pretty good, although there are some hard plastics here and there, but most of the areas where your hand might fall and where your arms lay are padded and look good and feel good. The quality of the switch gear is very good, and the level of technology in here is probably almost best in class if it isn't. And so looking at that, what we have ahead of me is a 10.25-inch fully digital display, and that is customizable. When you go to the different drive modes, it gets a different look, many different looks, and then of course you can customize what you're looking at. Looking over here, you've got another 10.25-inch screen that is flush mounted, and it dives down into a number of touch sensitive controls for HVAC and jump buttons for the different menus in the infotainment system. Down below in the center console, a nice big cubby down there, a place for your phone, and this does have a wireless charger down there, as well as ports to plug everything in. Here in the center pod, there are buttons across for the seat controls and a few other things. Drive mode, the lock for the all-wheel drive, and then one of my not so favorite features here is the push button gear selector. I always prefer to have an actual lever or maybe a toggle, but it does work. And then of course the parking brake off to the side, big cup holders. Now in here, storage is almost, well, it's not almost, it's huge. There's a lot of space in here for its class. There's room for, I would say 2, maybe even 3 of the rectangular tissue boxes if you stood them on their end. It's very deep and there's a lot of space in there. Now sitting in these seats, these are honestly not quite as comfortable as the seats in the Honda CR-V we tested last week. Honda makes great seats, but they are comfortable. They are power adjustable. I have memory over here for the driver. They're ventilated, they're heated. They're easy to get to a place where you like. And what I will say is that the seating position in this is one where you feel like you're sort of sitting on the vehicle rather than down in it. I've got these seats all the way on their lowest setting and I'm still feeling like I'm sitting on this vehicle, but because of that, the outward visibility is very good. Above me, of course, the panoramic sunroof. And with this two-tone treatment that we have in here, it just has a nice light, airy, artistic feel. The rear passenger compartment is a place that, well, it's airy and light because we've already talked about that. This window up here really helps a lot, but it's also quite roomy, as you can see. One of the first things I noticed sitting back here is the seating height, which is very good for a crossover SUV. I'm not sitting down on the floor. And they have packaged the hybrid battery under this seat. So as a result, it does not have a sliding adjustment, but it does have a back rake adjustment that lets you put that back rake where you want it. As far as space, I got plenty of it. These seats up here are set for my height, about 5'8" with my tennis shoes on. As you can see, I've got about 6 inches ahead of my knees. I could have a very tall person sitting in front of me with that seat back, and I still wouldn't be cramped. The seat is comfortable, and it's got good side support. It's not overly stiff, and there is seating in the middle for that middle passenger, as well as a fold-down armrest. Other amenities back here, I have vents on the back of the console blowing cool air on me right now. USB ports down at the bottom, and these seats back here are heated. Another thing that you don't often expect in this class, a nice bonus. Now these seats of course do fold down in a 60-40 split, not entirely a flat load floor. Again, part of that is because we do have the hybrid battery under this rear seat. But when you pull up that rear floor cargo area, you can find that there is some storage down below, and it does have a fix-a-flat kit, not a spare tire on this vehicle. But if you pulled all of that out, there is space in there if you needed to have a spare tire. So it is a way to go on this vehicle, where like the Honda CR-V we just tested last week, they actually put the hybrid battery back where the spare tire would go, and you're just out of luck if you really need to have one. Overall, I'm very pleased with this interior. I love the design work, I love the quality of the materials, and I absolutely love the level of technology that's here in the feature content. Honestly, with everything that I've tested, is top of class. Downsides, not my favorite shifter, and the seats aren't quite as comfortable as some of the competitors, but they're still quite comfortable. Nonetheless, this interior gets 5 out of 5 stars. The infotainment system here is one that I'm very familiar with, and Hyundai and Kia have had this system and variations of it in many of their different vehicles. It is a 10.25 inch touchscreen, and it is fully featured. It has Sirius XM radio, it has Bluetooth connectivity, it's got Android Auto, it's got Apple CarPlay, it has a full 360-degree surround monitor, and this has the top-of-the-line Bose audio system. It sounds great. The graphics are good. Navigating around and using the menus, there is a bit of a learning curve, but once you learn it, it's one of the best in the business. The downsides in this particular installation, I don't have any hard controls really for anything. No volume knob, no tuning knob, which no matter how good this is, it's still much easier to just twist a knob really quick than use any of the switches on the steering wheel or tap, 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 tap for volume and tuning. I just, not that good when it comes to using it. Yes, you get used to it. Yes, you put your presets in there and it's not such a big deal, but it's just sort of a pet peeve that I have. And another thing, it has native nav. You don't have to pay a subscription for that. Most of the competitors now are going to subscription-based services, where this still comes with a nav map that you don't have to pay monthly for. I love it. This infotainment system gets 4 out of 5 stars. All right, my friends, let's go for a drive. Now, if you watch my videos, the first question I always like to ask is, how does it go? So we're going to come to a complete stop and go. Woo! Listen to that. And 60. Woo! This thing's got some spunk. Some spunk. That's an old word. So what is under the hood here? This is actually a very unique hybrid system, and from most of what's out there in the world, this is a 1.6 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. And instead of a continuously variable transmission like most, what this has is a 6-speed automatic, just like any other car out there. And between the engine and the automatic transmission is an electric motor sandwiched in between. And it's set up that this engine can be turned off and that electric motor can power the car. The motor has 59 horsepower, the gasoline engine 180, and together they can put out a total of 226 horsepower. And so because of that arrangement, this has one of the most conventional, traditional feeling driving experiences of any hybrid that you can buy. It doesn't have the CVT or EVT continuous shiftless kind of experience. You feel it shifting gears. There's paddle shifters here to shift gears with. When you change the drive modes, it actually gives you different feeling of shifts, and they're real shifts giving you those different feelings. So it's a very dynamic driving experience, to use the term that car companies like, dynamic. It's sporting and it feels like a normal vehicle. The only time it doesn't feel normal is when it's running on electric power and you don't hear the gasoline engine. It's got a good level of refinement. This is a generation of a system that Hyundai's been building for a while, so it's well proven, and really it's quite a joy to drive. And that's really the simplest way to put it. The refinement, the power, the way it operates, living with it every day, it's not a compromise like some of the hybrid systems out there that feel a little bit more like a science experiment. Here, you wouldn't know it's a hybrid. Most people wouldn't unless they were told. Now, fuel economy. This is rated at 37 city, 36 highway, and 37 mpg combined. In my week with it, I got about 32. So not quite up to what the EPA promises. The air conditioning's on. Yes, that does tend to hit hybrids pretty good because the actual hybrid battery is what powers the air conditioner, right? So it's not the gasoline engine. So when the hybrid battery is powering the air conditioner, it's less of it to power the car. The gas engine runs more, etc. So not really banging it for fuel economy. I wish it had a traditional lever, but outside of that, I'm pretty happy with this powertrain. It gets 5 out of 5 stars. Now, handling. This has got the big 19-inch alloys on it. It's got reasonably good rubber, McPherson struts up front, a multi-link independent suspension at the rear, and this has got a nice solid body structure, a nice solid chassis that actually feels of quality. It's got a level of refinement. It actually feels like a step up in terms of its cost. In other words, it feels its price. And I say that because some of the other vehicles out there, in terms of chassis dynamics and just what it feels like driving down the road, the Ford Escape feels like a pretty inexpensive vehicle. The Toyota RAV4, it's better, but still compared to this and even the Honda CR-V hybrid that we tested last week, that vehicle tends to feel a little bit downscale. Here, you know, we're spending $40,000 on the top model and it feels like it's worth $40,000. It feels like some of the luxury marks that are a step above it in price. So that is very good. Now, road noise on our 70-mile-an-hour test, this measured out at 57.7 decibels, which is on the low side of average. So road noise at speed on the freeway, pretty low, so that's pretty impressive. And it was mostly tire noise, very little wind noise, and that has a lot to do with these aerodynamics. And it's just well dialed in. There's really no rattling going on. The chassis feels solid and well bolted together. You don't have that disjointedness that some vehicles have going over speed bumps and speed humps, manhole covers, things like that. I feel like I'm repeating myself. It just feels solid and well put together. And it's pretty responsive to throwing it around curves. Brake feel, even though this does have an electronic braking system, the feel of it and the modulation is good. Some hybrids, not so much. This doesn't feel that much different than a normal hydraulic braking system. So this chassis gets 5 out of 5 stars. Well, my friends, we've looked at it inside and out. We've gone for a drive and talked about some of its high points and maybe a couple of its low points, although there aren't that many. I always like to end my videos with the competitiveness and value question. Is it worth the money? Is it worth spending money on this over something else in its class? Well, we're at $40,000 and some change here. This is about the most you can spend here unless you go nutty at the dealership with the snake oil and the protection packages, accessories, and so forth. Don't do that. None of that stuff's worth the money. The accessories, yeah, but none of that other stuff that they just wipe on and don't. That said, at this price, we're almost identical in price to the Honda CR-V Hybrid we just tested last week. And they were very close in all of the metrics and the driving and the quality. But where this really excels compared to that vehicle is feature content. This has heated and ventilated seats. This has a panoramic roof. This has a 360-degree monitor. And it also has heated seats in the back row. It has more horsepower. It's got a longer warranty, 100,000 miles, 10 years on the powertrain, the hybrid system, the battery. And then it has 5 years, 60,000 miles on everything else. That way outperforms the Honda on all of those fronts. And Toyota RAV4 Hybrid, a good vehicle, a solid one, but it's not quite up to this level in terms of feature content, interior quality, driving. It's probably the least fun to drive of any of these vehicles, in my opinion. And then, of course, there's a Ford Escape Hybrid, if you can even get one. Not really. So I really think this is top of class when it comes to value and competitiveness. Obviously, 5 out of 5 stars. When you put that in with everything we've already talked about, we're at 4.5 stars for the review. Fabulous. And you know what else? Ba-bing! It goes on our I'd buy it list, which means that's really kind of the highest honor I can give it as a reviewer. I'd buy this. I would totally spend my money on this if I were looking for a compact to mid-size hybrid crossover SUV. This is the one that I would get out of all of them. And that's because of everything we just talked about. It has the most for the money. It's got great quality. It's got the best warranty. It's got the most horsepower. And the fuel economy is right in the neighborhood with everybody else. So why not? And I love the styling too. So there you go. This is what I think, my opinion, on the Hyundai Tucson Hybrid. So if you like what we do, click down there and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Stay informed of everything we do. And if you're not ready to commit just yet, just see our latest video right there. Either way, stay tuned.